Hello, everyone. My name is Ivan Perez. I have a dream to build a high speed railroad company. Now, I never imagined myself doing this for quite some time. I thought, go to school and get a degree in relevant fields. However, time is running out. The population growth of Cache Valley is unprecedented, and I hate to see it grow in an irresponsible manner. Now, before I begin, I just want to say that I myself am Now, before I begin, I just want to say that I am by no means an expert. Like, I don't have a college degree, nor do I work in relevant fields of work. Before I begin, I just want to say that I am by no means an expert. Again, I want to go to school because I don't have a college degree, nor do I work in the relevant field. However, when you hear ideas for the first time, and it just makes sense, I don't think you have to be an expert. That, as well as decades of research and independent study. Now, earlier this year, the Utah Department of Transportation held a meeting on Logan Main Street. Let me just say, I was just absolutely disappointed. Utah Department of Transportation. They should change their name to Utah Department of Roads. This name change will better reflect the department because all other forms of transportation have been and will continue to be neglected. I wanted to present this presentation at that meeting, but it definitely wasn't the meeting I was expecting. It was just an open house, so I'm making this video. Why UDOT proposals will not work in the long term. There is this phenomenon that was observed with cars in the late 1960s called induced demand. Even earlier than that, just under a different name. The way it relates to automobiles, when you increase the supply, like more lanes and new roads, demand will follow. More people will use the infrastructure, increasing congestion. An example of recent induced demand was Highway 252 or 10th West. It was once a 2-lane back road. Now it is a 4-lane high-speed highway. I remember how empty it was when it was first completed. Now it is full of cars that are backed up. So imagine my horror when they throw the idea of making it into 6 lanes. Does anyone recognize this photo? I got this photo from an article from the Herald Journal back in 2008. This is the intersection of 600 South, 1000 West. Well, here it is today, the same angle. I'd say it took around 5 to 10 years for it to be this congested. What are the underlying problems of automobile congestion? Logan, like any other US city, is car dependent. The most convenient way to transport yourself is by car, and all other modes of transportation have been neglected. This can be attributed to 3 main reasons. Number 1, land use, zoning laws. Most of the zoning in Logan, where residential areas are allowed to be built, are only for single-family housing, which creates bad land use. More on that later. Urban sprawl, defined as the uncontrolled expansion of urban areas, typically characterized by single-use, low-density housing that requires lots of land. This has an increased reliance on automobiles that, coupled with minimum parking laws, requiring every single piece of property to provide free parking for someone else's private property, further induces the demand for more road infrastructure. Why car dependency is bad. And look, I just want to say, I am not anti-car. I am anti-car dependency. Car dependency creates pollution. Cache Valley has horrible pollution during the winter, some of the worst air quality in the country. Cars are also very space inefficient. The average vehicle occupancy is 1.5 people per car. Most people, they can't even afford a car. Transportation is the second most costly household expense. And that statement right there is just sad to me. Pretty much everywhere else in the world, the second most costly household expense is food. We have it so backwards here in the United States. And people wonder why they can't afford groceries. People have to go to a financial institution and beg for money. There is a $1.6 trillion deficit on automobile loans. This excludes people from participating in society. Without alternate access to transportation, many people can't drive due to age, disability, health, they lost a privilege, economic status, and the biggest thing that just blows my mind, driving is a privilege and not a right. So why do we continue to build a society where the only form of transportation is based around a privilege? That just makes no sense. Not to mention all the deaths, distracted, impaired drivers, uninsured, unfit vehicles, costly maintenance and upkeep on all vehicles and infrastructure, people who cannot operate something as simple as a blinker, speeders, rollovers, hit and runs, and the list keeps going on and on. Let's address the underlying problems. The alternatives to automobiles are not convenient and reliable as they should be. Walking, cycling, and all types of public transit should be considered for new development. Creating safe, effective, and convenient alternatives decrease the need for cars, thus reducing congestion. But what's causing car dependency? It's zoning laws. Just like many cities, Logan is in a housing crisis and needs more housing, specifically the missing middle housing. However, it's illegal to build most other different types of housing other than single family homes. And higher density doesn't always mean apartment buildings. It's stuff like duplexes, triplexes, townhomes, dingbats, condominiums, accessory dwelling units, or ADUs, and so on. Logan City Council needs to vote on changing the zoning laws to allow more medium and high density mixed use housing. Single family housing is unsustainable to continue to build. And because it's the only type of housing that is available for purchase, this single regulation has created the problem of housing being unaffordable to buy. The best solution for traffic congestion in Logan, besides changing zoning laws, the city needs to focus on alternatives. One alternative that we already have that can be significantly more effective is public transit. Allow more mixed-use housing and encourage transit-oriented development, or TOD, and reduce or eliminate parking minimum requirements near TODs. And this can be done anywhere. Start by identifying bus stops that have the potential to become TODs. Stuff like parking lots, undeveloped land, and old crumbling buildings. The blue and green loop, they have big potential. There are plenty of bus stops that is surrounded by vacant land. It runs frequent enough and connects the major points of Logan. It has the potential to become a bus rapid transit, which brings me to my next point. The future of Logan should include bus lanes. Just about the entire stretch of Main Street has a shoulder, but not just Main Street, but also 400 North or US 89. From Main Street all the way up to 1200 East, there is a little street parking along the highway, so parking spot losses are at a minimum. You would have to visibly separate the space and make it known as a bus-only lane. By creating a bus lane, you create the foundation for a bus rapid transit, or BRT, and we would need about 5.1 miles in length. Because this is the United States, we're building everything for whatever reason just costs more. Building a full BRT system would cost between $10 million to $30 million per mile. Ogden's OGX is in similar length at 5.3 miles, and it cost $150 million. I believe that we could build a BRT system for $10 million per mile or less, and that would take up the budget that UDOT has set aside, which is $55 million, for Main Street Logan. I would much rather have my tax money go towards the alternatives, like a BRT, rather than wasting it on the most subsidized and dangerous form of transportation, which only induces demand. Let's go over some benefits of bus lanes. Bus lanes will decrease service times by bypassing traffic congestion. It allows other bus routes to utilize the new lane, and most importantly, it makes the blue and green loop more efficient. Because buses will move faster than cars stuck in traffic, people will see this and some will choose to take public transit. This takes cars off the road, reducing traffic congestion and air pollution. Believe it or not, many people will choose the most convenient form of transportation. Induced demand also works for public transit, and that is what my goal is for the Connect public transit system with a BRT. Emergency vehicles, they can get to their call quicker, and they won't cause much disturbance to the already congested flow of traffic. And a BRT, it doesn't induce traffic. But that is a long-term solution for Main Street Logan. Some short-term solutions that could be completed by the end of the year. There needs to be a bus that connects the Logan Transit Center to Ogden Central. Doing so connects Cache Valley to the rest of the Wasatch Front and the rest of the world. From Smithfield to Hiram and all the municipalities in between, it has a combined population of 110,000 people, and yet there is no affordable public transit outside of the valley. And UDOT, they should extend Highway 252 from US 8991 all the way down to Highway 101 in Hiram. There is a small piece of road left that needs to be built. The rest of the infrastructure is already there. And the best part is, UDOT doesn't need to be the one to do it. The county, Logan, or Nibley could do it. And this PowerPoint was created in February of 2025. It is now October 2025. And it does look like we are getting that little piece of road. This is the road that I'm talking about. Most of it has already been built out, except for a little piece of land. If we zoom into the red circle and square, we are led here to the edge of Logan and Nibley. This blue line represents less than 500 feet. 500 feet of roadway that needs to be paved to have an alternative, viable, north-south alternative corridor for Main Street. And now this PowerPoint was made in February of 2025. It is now October 2025, and it does look like they are paving this piece of land. It's been unpaved for a long time. But all we're doing is inducing demand of an already congested road. And the intersection of 10th West and US 8991 is so congested thanks to UDOT putting up a median at 1800 South that no longer lets people turn left. So people must turn right and do a U-turn at the light, all in the name of safety. Here's a thoughtful suggestion. How about you reduce the amount of funding you give on the most dangerous and subsidized form of transportation? You can't do a U-turn after the median, and which most people do anyways, and it has zero enforcement. Quick little story. According to the Utah Department of Transportation long-range plan, they have funded $3 million to, quote, fun transit options from Ogden Transit Hub to Logan via US 8991. End quote. Why is there still no service to Ogden UTA station? Well, last year in July, I reached out to UDOT asking for who will operate this route and when can we see this happen. And they said no operator has been identified. So if no transit operator has been identified, when will we ever see service? Finding an operator should have been a priority. If the Utah Transit Authority, or UTA, or the Connect Public Transit don't have it prioritized, find an operator who will. An operator like me, who can put that money to work and have a service running by the end of this year. Someone who would just love to see the Cache Valley Express. Operated as a private company, this will be a fixed route commuter bus that connects Logan Transit Center to Ogden Central. I will give props to UDOT for recognizing the need for this. I want to go back and talk about transit-oriented development, or TODs in Logan. With the blue and green loops upgraded to a BRT, and they don't even have to be upgraded, there are several plots of land that could be TOD. However, this prime land that was once for sale is being developed. The former site of the Cache Valley Mall and along 1200 South next to Les Schwab. I envisioned a vibrant, walkable, bikeable, human-sized TOD neighborhood. Just the way cities used to be built over 60 years ago. We don't need another hotel chain. Hotels, for the most part of the week, they sit half empty, if not more. You know what wouldn't be half empty? Housing. And the former site of the Cache Valley Mall, it is being way too car-centric in the heart of other busy car-centric shopping complexes. We citizens and City Council should reconsider and repurpose the use for these properties. This is the hotel they're building next to Les Schwab, 1200 South. And this is the former site of the Cache Valley Mall, where they're building a Target and more housing. But I want to solve traffic statewide. And I think we are at a very critical point in time right now. With Utah set to host the world for the 2034 Olympics, this is the perfect time to invest in Utah, and not just for the Olympics, but for long-term success. I'm sure you've seen videos of the Utah Transit Authority talking about double tracking the frontrunner. You know, I suppose it's fine because they're working within the budget that they have, but we could do so much better than just double tracking. We, as Utahns, should all support in forming a bond, or perhaps ask the federal government for $20 billion to go towards upgrading the frontrunner into high-speed rail. In terms of cost, the high end would be $100 million per mile. And we would need about 175 miles, which would be $17.5 billion. And the other $2.5 billion will go towards upgrading maintenance facilities and purchase new rolling stock. And I am certain that we could build it for much less. The Chinese, who by the way are decades ahead of the United States, they do it for $30 million a mile. The French, they do it for around $45 million per mile. Why should we upgrade the frontrunner into high-speed rail? There's so many reasons we should do it, but these are just the points that I believe are most important. The frontrunner will become faster through efficiency and speed. The Ogden-Provo journey will be just as fast, if not faster, than it takes for an automobile to get there. Also, we are not building a system from nothing, which would cost more. With the figures listed in the previous slide, if we built high-speed rail at a cheaper cost than $100 million per mile, we could use that remaining money and spend it towards housing, specifically TOD housing surrounding the existing and future stations like Springville Spanish Fork, the Rio Grande Plan, Park City, Ogden Central, and most importantly, Logan. These tracks will set the foundation for high-speed rail in America. High-speed rail is the best choice to connect cities within 500 miles or less. And Salt Lake City, it's a pretty isolated place, but yet it has 6 major cities within a 500-mile radius. We can one day connect Salt Lake City to at least 4 major cities. They are Boise, Las Vegas, Denver, and Reno. Building to these cities will also connect Utah more. Think of Logan to St. George, Wendover to Park City. When you look at future maps of high-speed rail in the United States, I don't necessarily like that vision for how it looks like for Utah. I view high-speed rail in a manner that not just connects the United States, but North America as a whole. And with Utah and Salt Lake City in the center of the West, we'd really be living up to the nickname, the Crossroads of the West. Now, to summarize, we need to stop building in a car-dependent way. This is not sustainable to continue to build our cities like we have for the past 60 years. We should add bus lanes on Main Street Logan so that we can upgrade the blue and green loops to a BRT and pave less than 500 feet of road to have a viable north-south alternative to Main Street and get a commuter bus that goes from Logan to Ogden like the Cache Valley Express. Reconsider and repurpose land for transit-oriented development, mixed-use housing. And we should all create a bond or ask the federal government for $20 billion in funding to invest in Utah by building a world-class high-speed rail. And any extra money can go towards the housing we desperately need, just in time for the 2034 Winter Olympics. I made this PowerPoint because I want to preserve the thing that I love about Cache Valley, and that's agriculture. I want to ensure that Cache Valley will remain agriculture-based while supporting the communities for centuries. And I too want to support Utah for the long term and set it up for success. I don't ever see many great ideas to push Utah for long-term sustainability and success. The Rio Grande Plan is the most I've seen, but that only covers Salt Lake City and not for the majority of the population. And now Utah City and the Point of the Mountain, well, they're just corporate housing. They don't necessarily care about sustainability. They just want to make money. With all the foreign companies moving to the USA, I want to set up Utah to be a very attractive state. More than it already is, to help bring companies and their multi-billion-dollar investments here to the Beehive State. Thanks for watching.